Hi, everyone that's joined. Thank you so much for joining the session. I'm Kian. I just wanted to share some technical stuff while we're waiting for comrades to also jump into the room with us. So just to say, comrades, that interpretation is available, and we will also be live streaming this session. Um, the interpretation is there by there's a little globe right at the bottom on your right hand side, so please feel free to jump into any of the channels that you need to appropriately. The 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 second speaker will be speaking in Portuguese, so if you are a Portuguese speaker, feel free to click onto the Portuguese channel and you'll hear the speaker live. If you're not a Portuguese speaker, please jump into the English channel and you will hear the interpreter interpreting live the translation. And of course, if you're a French speaker, please feel free to jump into the French channel and the Spanish channel respectively. The PowerPoint presentations, videos, and things will be available afterwards or also on social media. Please make sure to follow the People's Dialogue on Facebook if you like. And the video will also be available on YouTube. A few comrades are stepping into the room now. So I am going to hand over to the chairperson. Thank you again, comrades, for joining.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to some, and good evening to others. I think I'd like to say welcome those of us who are in South Africa. It's an extremely cold day in the city where I live. And to the rest of us, I think we are beginning to feel or hopefully see the signs of change and spring coming. This is an important webinar. I was going to say seminar. My name is Marcia Andrews and I'm part of the People's Dialogue, and I'm based in South Africa. It's a process that started a few years ago when movements across the global south tried to find, and partners in the global north tried to find themselves around a way of working around extractivism. This process, through many meetings, discussions, sharing of experiences, sharing of struggles, culminated in a thematic social forum that was held in Johannesburg in November 2018. At this important thematic social forum, one of the key outcomes was the decision to embark on a campaign around the right to say no. Now, it's clear to us that the right to say no is not a new issue. It's not a new demand. It's not a new campaign. This has been a demand that's come for a long time. Each struggle, each moment of resistance, people say no to the way in which governments act, to the way in which corporations act, etc. But we wanted to create a process of sharing and a process of developing a common understanding of what do we mean by the right to say no. And this idea of sharing, bringing together the different struggles, is rooted in the idea of free, prior, informed consent. We wanted to go beyond that. We wanted to say, how do we build the strength of our struggles? How do we galvanize these struggles together? And how do we take forward a process of deepening our understanding of what we mean by the right to say no. So we've decided as the Thematic Social Forum partners, and we are many, that we would organize a series of global seminars. And this is the first of the series of seminars, and it's going to run from August to the end of October. And we'll start with this one, which is a reflection of the kinds of struggles that the members of the partners of the Thematic Social Forum are involved in. So we have part of this webinar today. We have a struggle from India, one from Brazil, one from South Africa, and also one from the Netherlands. So this gives you a reflection of the scope and the diversity and the depth of the struggles that people are involved in. We are going to start by giving each of the case studies, as we're calling it, an opportunity to share their struggle with us. And at the end of that, we're trying to give each one 15 minutes. We are going to open the floor for comments, questions, and a discussion. Unfortunately, because we are working across several time zones, we have partners here from India, Southeast Asia, etc., and Brazil, and so on. The time difference is great. So we cannot carry on too long, because it would mean that we'd lose some of the participants in this important webinar. I'd like to say what is really also important already. We have 115 participants registered that will be with us for the rest of today. Interpretation, as Kia has said, you go to the little globe at the bottom of the screen, and you can click onto the language that you want to use. I want to start now by welcoming the first speaker. And the first speaker is from India, and her name is Aswini. And there's Aswini is going to share their struggle. She's also part of a movement which has a title that fascinates me. It's called Re-Sister. So instead of resistor, it's Re-Sister. So I think those of us, the feminist movement in here, it's an interesting play on the word. And she's from a movement linked to women against mining in Asia. So a great welcome to you, Aswini, and please take the screen. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Marcia. So this is Ashwini from Bharati Trust India. Today I am representing Asia Pacific Gathering and Asia Pacific Gathering on Human Rights and Extractives. It's a coalition of organizations from different nations across Asia and Pacific that are supporting communities to assert their rights and challenge destructive extractive projects like mining, dirty energy, large dams, and plantation. We have seen that during this COVID lockdown, many of the universal negative policy had been. I'm just sharing the PowerPoint. So we have seen that there have been during this pandemic, there have been various national disaster management. So due to which mining operations was, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So this led to mining operations during lockdown without any protection and led to serious community spreading of pandemic in the mining area. So the indigenous countries in the whole region had come together to say no to mining. We have also seen that many undemocratic laws have been enacted during pandemic, which led to serious human rights violations of indigenous and their communities. Sorry?
Ine, I'm going to ask you to be a bit slower.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you able to see my PowerPoint?
We're
It's
seeing your
the
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
There we go. Nearly
Okay.
there.
So today I am bringing forward some of the cases from Indonesia, India, Philippines, and Papua. So as we have seen in Indonesia, there have been like 44% control operations of land, water, and island. Women are in very vulnerable condition due to this mining. We have seen the struggles of Kodirangan Island, where women are fighting against sand mining, which is run by Boskalis sea sand mine from Netherlands, where 5,000 fisherfolk have lost their livelihood, and due to the pandemic, their conditions have been more vulnerable. So they have protested against it in front of South Silvasia Governor Office whole night by reciting Qurans and praying. When later on, these women were arrested from their hometown. So the women in these communities feel that it is a return of Dutch colonization. The similar situation we have seen in East Kalimantan, where there were 36 deaths due to the open coal mine pits. Among them, majority of them are children. As these open pits were in the highly density areas, so because the our government is not taking any action, these women and mothers are very bothered and they are psychologically burdened. So Jatam estimates that 3,092 coal mine pits are still open, and it's a threat to the life of the people living here. And so similar situation we had seen in Kendall women during lockdown. Although they were said that they should not coming out and they have due to the protocols for the safety of their own health, but the cement of mining was still going on. So these women on Earth's Day, April 2020, they they did a protest against this and they did a foot movement to fight against this mining. Similar to then there was an online rally to uh, to protest against the new mineral and coal mining laws, where they have also remembered that remember the women victims and heroes of the Lebanon oil and gas mining which has happened 14 years ago. Due to this, not only in Indonesia, but we have seen similar stories in Philippines, where DDPO community was struggling, was fighting against the Oceano gold mining. It so happened that Oceano gold mine had an uh, they had got their lease for the mining for gold mining had got expired last year, June 20th, but they have been illegally doing the mining. When community protested, they stopped it, but later on, when the community on July 1st saw that there were trucks coming on illegally, and they were being when they were protesting, they told they were brutally beaten by the police and the mining security guards. So they have been protesting against it they have been protesting against it on Women's Day, and also on they have been doing through Tavaya. It is a dance movement to represent their unity, power, and freedom. There were several hundreds of women who have been together to protest against this Oceano Gold in this movement with them. Here they have also done Gopo, which is a chant which tells about the struggles they have been going on and about the future they will be, how they have been fighting and they have won against it. So this is the cargo as we have seen in the pictures. So this is the picture where the Desam chairperson Ronaldo Pulido, who was leading the protest, was very seriously injured and has been dragged to the van so that he has been arrested. Not only this, in Philippines we have also seen that there was a massive protest for anti-terrorism law, which would have had kept the human rights defenders in a very huge risk. So similarly, I am getting stories from India where there were three major changes in the laws. First one is change in the mineral law. So on in this change in the mineral law, on 27 March 2020, Parliament passed the Mineral Law Act, which was brought about amendments to two mining legislations: the Mines and Minerals Act and the Coal Mines. Some of the major changes were the new leasing system. Previously, it was like that they had to take the permission from the committee, but they had to take separate license for prospecting and also for mining. But due to this change, they can take only one license, same license for both prospecting and license lease. Later on, transfers of clearance to a new bidder. Upon expiry, mining leases for specified minerals were till now transferred to new person through an auction process. But if this law is done, they don't need to do any auction. They can immediately transfer to the new one. Advance auction. This act allows state governments to take advance auction for mines before the expiry of the lease period of the mines. So the fourth one is privatization of coal sector, where this was the biggest change which is happening in the restructuring of the coal sector, which was nationalized since 1973 to open up the private companies. This act seeks to remove end-use restrictions in order to allow private entities to own coal mines, both domestic and global. But on June 18th, the central government has approved for 1841 coal mines in the India itself, and 9 of each were from Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra. These governments from Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra have objected for this coal mining because they felt that mostly these coal blocks are in the middle of the dense forest and the natural resources. So they have said no to it. Now on District Mineral Fund. District Mineral Fund is a fund which is used for the upliftment of the mining affected communities, where the mining companies pays a royalties annually. But mostly these fund is misused. This is used for the policy in the urban cities or in for the campaign process. But on March 26, during the lockdown, the finance minister Sitaraman said that this fund will be used for the healthcare facilities, screening and testing required. So any state government can use them. So after hearing this, many of the communities with the help of Dhatri have started a campaign called DMF Ka Hissa, which is also called as DMF Entitlement to DMF. So they started a poster campaign. In this they have written slogans like this is my forest and everything is polluted due to mines, but I don't have any right on DMF. There were very similar, like there were many slogans in different languages. We have started it in 7 states. The mines displaced me and gave me no water or food, while you dug out my land and extracted diamonds and riches. Am I entitled to DMF? So these were some similar campaign was happening in many of the places. So one more major amendment was done to EIA. So these EIA, they wanted to change it, and they had given us the last date of for a recommendation of the for the policy, August 11. So the major changes was that first, Previously, the company used to give, report on every 6 months, but due to this law, they have to give once in a year. They have also changed a 30 period. Previously, it was like the community will be given 30 days time after the public consultation. But due to this law, they will be given only 20 days. One more change was that uh, the, uh, the EI reports would have been accessed easily, but if new EIA would have come, then they have to give the written request to know what is the status. We have also seen that it would have given to permission to the communities.
Ashwani, can you please start to round off? Sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry?
Will you start to round off? Thank you.
Okay. So I would like to now for our last case, for our local struggle, I'd like all of you to watch a video from Papua New Guinea that shows the struggle of the fight from the indigenous community for gold mining. Yes. Actually, we wanted to get a woman leader perspective, but due to our network problem, she is not able to send her video. So please show the video.
For us growing up along the river and people belonging to the river it's a spirit that is living. So we have languages and we've got songs and stories that says, you know, it could wake up and it talks to you, and it sleeps, it dreams, those kind of stories that my mom tells me. And all its life forms, both plants and animals, are connected to us. And that's really important. That's really important. It's my identity. And that's going to be killed. That means Emino representing you, interest for you, interest for Warana, life. All of the mining that has happened in Papua New Guinea has been exploitative to the environment and the people. We haven't seen any significant improvement, changes in our lives. The Bougainville copy. There was a civil war, more than 10,000 people died. BHP Steel, that mined in Oktedi, in Fly River. That river is dead. Then we have Pogara, they still have violence up there. So these are the fears. Before law, white money come, this la haples, and haples the working law. I've received 4 death threats. I could be taken out, or members of my volunteers could be harmed, and that's really something that has hit me. I think it's super very important. My livelihood and the livelihood of people I love in my country. What is the true development? What money or my ground, my heart, my river? Now you like money, kai. Now you meet yes, the money, you be killing life or killing up the country. And I'm fight on Slawara, and I'm the time of Slawara. And that's why I'm fight.
We hope that with these cases I have shared from India, Indonesia, and Philippines and Papua, we are inspired to persist in our struggle to say no to mining.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I say thank you very much again. If we had been in the same space, we would have probably given you a round of applause. I'm going to move, I'm not going to summarize, we'll make summaries at the end. I'm going to move to the next speaker, which is Lucas. Lucas Manya is an activist from Brazil. And are you ready, Lucas? So I am not going to take too much time to introduce him. He's from Minas Gerais State, and he's part of a youth movement that has resisted mining. And I think it's better for Lucas to introduce himself. Over to you, Lucas, and a great welcome. It's good that you're with us.
I'm waiting for Lucas to say something. This is the interpreter.
Lucas? We apologize. There are often little technical glitches. So let us just make sure Lucas is with us. Lucas?
I am not sure if Lucas can hear you, Marcia, actually.
I will try again to see if I... Do you think we, while we sort out technicalities with Lucas, we go to the next speaker? Is that possible, Lucas? Otherwise, you can put in the chat if you're with us. Bawa, can you check the chat?
I'm texting Lucas right now.
Camilla,
Comrade Boa, please switch to the Portuguese channel so you could hear
Orelha
Lucas.
Boa, pode por favor trocar para o canal em português para que nos possa ouvir, nos possamos ouvir.
Okay, perfect. I can hear Lucas. Lucas, please go ahead. Pode continuar, Lucas. Good morning, everyone. I'm talking from Brazil, from Minas Gerais State.
Bom dia a todos. Eu
This is
falo do
most
Brasil.
affected state by mining companies.
Este é o estado que é mais afetado pelas companhias de mineração.
And I speak from an area with a rainforest, humid rainforest. That it's a very rich area in water and other resources, as well as with agroecological family farmers. Agroecology is the main activity of those family farmers. In that region, there is huge reserves of bauxite, and the conflict starts there. But there is also a great resistance history in the region. It has started in the 2004, where trade unions, cooperatives, and other movements found out found out that the bauxite had to be exploited by mining companies. They mobilized themselves from 2004 to 2017. And that involved demonstrations in highways, in public spaces. I'm having difficulties to follow Lucas. So those resistance movements have articulated themselves in protest, and in that context, we managed to influence the government to approve two laws that would halt the advance of mining activities in that region. The first law was the law that turned that area into a reserve zone. The second law is the territory ordering law that prohibits mining activities in that area. So that territory in principle was considered to be a free mining territory. Not necessarily because of the laws themselves, but because of people's resistance for almost 20 years. In Brazil, we have a lot of experience similar to this one. Initially, begin by being a local experience, but then expands itself to a national campaign. In 2012, there was a national movement against mining in Brazil, and integrated all these different movements into a national struggle against mining. The region I'm talking about in Minas Gerais, the Serra do Brigadeiro region, is part of that national movement. And we hosted a huge seminar to discuss the problems of mining in Brazil, in that region. More than 120 people from 14 Brazilian states were present in the seminar. We identified very similar connecting points from the participants of the seminar throughout the country. One of those has to do with the environment injustice. The power and unevenness of different actors in the sector. The second point has to do with a propositive agenda that to say no to mining is to say yes to water, yes to life, and yes to agroecology. It was also an opportunity for people to say what they do want for their region, for their territories. This has to do with the sovereignty of the territory and the sovereignty of the people. So people claim the democratization of debates on mining in Brazil. So our demand is for popular sovereignty and against mining. There are places in Brazil where it's very irrational to do mining, and the Serra do Brigadeiro is one of those areas. Because it's rich in water, it's rich in agroecological experience of the local farmers. And in Brazil, we're saying that we have to discuss a post-mining regime. Because the question we ask is, what will happen in those areas that are free from mining in the future? What is going to come next? We are currently drafting a text in English with 5 main points that talks about mining-free Brazil. And those are present in various regions of the country, of Brazil, that are articulated within that national movement that is against mining. Serra do Brigadeiro is one of those experiences, but as I said, there are many others. We fight for land reform against mining. So we do have Quilombolas communities and indigenous communities that are against mining. So they were all integrated to the big narrative, which is against mining, that we are involved in. And those 5 points I mentioned, they are also part of this big narrative. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucas.
Muito obrigada, Lucas.
Am I correct that Lucas has completed his presentation, Boa?
Estarei correta que o Lucas completou a sua apresentação. Boa, pode
Yes,
ajudar.
that's right, Marcia.
Thank you. Thank
Sim,
you very
está
much,
correta.
Lucas.
Ele completou a apresentação. Muito obrigada, Lucas.
Again, I will not summarize because
Uma
we
vez
are
mais,
going
não
to
irei
bring all
fazer
these points
o resumo.
together at the end. Thank
É
you.
que nós vamos tentar falar juntos no final sobre tudo.
I'm not sure why we're hearing the simultaneous translation, so I am
Não tenho
going
certeza porque é que ainda estamos a ouvir a tradução simultânea.
I'm going to move to the third speaker. She is from South Africa, an activist in South Africa. Her name is Nonhle, and she's from an area along the coast, a beautiful district called Kolobeni. It's right on the coast, and she's part of a movement called the Amadiba Crisis Committee. So I'm going to hand over to Nonhle now. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Good afternoon to you all, and I hope it's afternoon even where you are, because it's afternoon here in South Africa. Yes, my name is Nonhle Mbutuma. I'm from Eastern Cape, in Pondoland, which is Xolobeni.
Consegue todos ouvir no canal em português?
Yeah, that's where I'm based. Xolobeni is one of the areas that are known as the hotspot in terms of biodiversity, where you find the endemic species and people there are practicing agriculture, and people are not dependent on government to do things, but they are self-dependent. Right now, agriculture is booming in our area, and Xolobeni is along the coast. People also use the ocean as one of the resources that it helps their livelihood. That's where I'm based. Yes, but we are facing with the mining proposed in our area where we live. It's been quite a long time. It's more than 22 years right now, where we are pushing this struggle of Xolobeni, that where we said that we don't want the mining. And we're not saying that we want benefits. No, it's not about benefits. But we said mining is not good for us because it's short term and it's going to destroy our environment and it's going to destroy our livelihood. And we know that once the mining is taking over, there is no turning back. It's unreversible. That is why we said we started a campaign called The Right to Say No. And why we said we have a right to say no. We have a right to say yes, and we have a right to say no. This is a right to decide, not the right to be consulted. That is why we challenge our own government to take our own government to court to claim our right. And we won a court case in 2018, where the court judgment says that before any mining application can be granted, the communities must give a consent, which is full, prior and informed consent, according to our customary law, and also according to our customary law. That means the mining companies cannot only use one law, which is the law that it's more on the mineral resources, but also when they are applying for a mining rights, they must also use the customary law, because customary law is just also been recognized by our own constitution in South Africa. And the time we go to Pretoria, there was a lot of mobilization from different communities. Those have been affected by the mining. And there was quite a lot of support from different countries that the people of Xolobeni have a right to decide. And it was a victory when we won this court case. And we're thinking that there will be no more harassing in our communities. But unfortunately, the department says that they're going to appeal the decision. But they just put only the notice in court, but they did not put any papers where it can help the court for a hearing. And now it's been 2 years where there is nothing from the Department of Minerals and Energy. Now, we last year were in court, in High Court in Pretoria, where we're demanding that this court case, this appeal, this notice of appeal from Department of Minerals and Energy must be cancelled for good. And there was also about a lot of support from different communities, different from people. You know, it doesn't matter people, because they know that the right to say no is not only focusing on the mining, but also the people that are doing fisheries, also the people that are doing agriculture. They know that this right is so important, because it's not only mining in our land, but also there is a mining in our ocean where it's affecting our marine resources, but they just forget that people are dependent on these marine resources for livelihood. That is why we said that the right to say no is not only focusing on the mining, because right now in South Africa, they are talking about the ocean economy. And ocean economy is not about ocean, and it is about the bottom of the ocean. It is not about fishing. It is about oil and gas deep down the bottom of the sea. That is why we've got quite a lot of support from different people, because people, they understand that once our ocean also is being destroyed, that means our livelihood is being destroyed. And right now, we make try to go to court together with lawyers to say that that decision, that appeal, I mean, it's in High Court in Pretoria, must be taken out. And in order to do so, you need to put another case where you are appealing on top of the appeal, that the appeal must not go ahead, because we just realized that they were only playing for time. We oppose their appeal. So now they cannot avoid the court hearing. It will, the court hearing where we're going to see if the government is suspending this appeal or not, it will be on 12th October in Pretoria, where we're hoping that there will be also more support from different communities, from different countries, because we know that this judgment is very, very important, but not only important for South Africa, but the whole world, because if we win this judgment, it means that we'll set a precedent to all the world, the whole world, because all other communities, they will use this judgment in order to protect their own land, to not to be taken by this mining company. Yeah, that's the situation right now, where we're hoping that we're going to get quite a lot of support as we used to do, because this court is not only for the people of Kolobeni, but to the entire world, because it's very important to everybody, not only the people of Kolobeni. And when we're in Pretoria last year, we're hoping that the Department of Minerals and Energy is going to respond. But unfortunately, they did not respond at all. Instead, they are just been quiet. And now, as I said, it's been 2 years. And the judgment 2 years ago was based in internal and local law. The international law is in many international charters, like the African Charter, that it has signed by South African government. It gives the right to free prior informed consent for indigenous communities. The local law was passed in 1998 in South Africa. And it is called the Interim Protection of Informal Land Rights Act, which is a PILRA. It says the same thing, but it has never been used by the South African government. But this is what the judge decided to do. That is why we said this is very important, because it includes all the laws, and also it uses a very, very pinpoint where the indigenous communities have a right to give a consent, because most of the time when the government is going to do the mining, they never, ever give the communities to give a consent. The only thing that they have done is to push our communities in the name of consultation. But consultation is where somebody is coming to tell you that I'm here to do this. But it doesn't matter what you're saying, that is consultation, because it's just a tick in the box. That is why right now we said that this tick in the box, it's enough. Now our people must give a consent if they do want the mining or they don't. Now it's going to give a time to digest and to decide for themselves if this type of development is good or not. That is why this court case is very important. And that is why you see in South Africa, it's uniting South Africa, where the case is not only the people of Xolobeni, but in different communities that they do support. As I mentioned earlier, that this right to say no, it's been supported by many communities because they know that it will bring South Africa to the democracy where people are going to decide. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I think perhaps one of the things that our sister Nonhle is not talking about is also the police brutality and the threats of police, how they harass people like ourselves as activists. I'm mentioning this today because I think these threats against the lives of activists in the front line must be put in the public domain so that the lives of these activists are also protected by those of us who are in these spaces together. So thank you very much, my sister. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
And we'll come back. I want to say to all of the panelists, please check in your in the chat. There are lots of questions for you and you can respond, but we will also have an opportunity for questions and answers. I go to the last speaker today, and I hope I'm going to pronounce your name correctly.
Chihiro.
Chihiro Grijsenbroek. Yes.
Yes.
I can say the surname better than the name. So a big welcome to you. This is also a very important struggle. Chihiro is from the Netherlands, and a welcome to you. I get you to introduce yourself to the group. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm very honored to be with you today, and thanks everyone for showing up to deepen your connections with all the struggles. We're so connected. So I'll be sharing my screen. I hope I can do that. Yes. To show a few slides, and I'll talk about the collective Coded Oats. So I hope you are seeing my screen now. Yes. Great. So who is Coded Oat? Coded Oat is a collective. We started in the Netherlands, and the world found out about us in 2017 when we occupied the coal harbor of Amsterdam. So when people think of Amsterdam, they tend to think of lots of bikes and beautiful canals and people smoking weed and all things friendly and fuzzy. And they don't usually know that Amsterdam Harbor has the biggest port for gasoline in the world, and the second biggest port of Europe of coal. And the coal that we have here is coming from Colombia. This is also called blood coal. Like, many farmers have been pushed off the land for it. Many people have been killed. And it's generally not known by Dutch people that we have this here. And if you'd ask somebody in Amsterdam, they wouldn't know about it either. So this became our first target to mobilize mass civil disobedience, meaning that we would organize throughout a whole year action conferences to get people willing, able, and ready to do an action in this area, not really knowing what they were going to do, but trusting an action committee to prepare for it. We went through some fences to get there, and shut the place down for a day to really generate attention for what's happening here and how that is connected to racist colonial trade that basically diminishes the value of lives on the other side of the world. And yeah, so this is how we got started. But to see, you know, to become an activist, you basically need other activists. You can have a political persuasion, but it takes learning to be in a collective. And I want to zoom out a little bit here, because if we talk about anti-extractivist activism in Europe, I should really mention how Code Rood got to be strong in the Netherlands, when the Netherlands really didn't have a climate movement at all, or an anti-extractivist movement at all. It just had some NGOs with some volunteers that was way less politicized. So I want to mention 2009 as a year that politicized a crucial group of people in, this was in Copenhagen, when there were 100,000 people on the street on protest. And well, there was a lot of repression. This was during the climate summit. We were really pressing for a fair and legally binding deal. And what we saw was that 1,800 people got arrested. They were put in cages in a beer factory. Journalists were attacked by police dogs, and really all of the dirty politics that we know is out there kind of became very visible when you're in such a big group. And a group from Germany said, well, we need to address climate villains at home. So who is the biggest climate villain at home? And in the case of Germany, they were looking at Rhineland. Rhineland is just over the border from the Netherlands. It's very much the west of Germany. And it's a huge sacrifice zone where maybe 30 villages or something have been, what do you call it? Like ghost villages, like it's just been sacrificed for expansion of open cast lignite mining of RWE. And they started organizing every year a big climate camp. They had lots of workshops. It looks like a festival if you see the picture. And it really helped create an activist culture where people all over Europe would come, including people from the Netherlands, when there wasn't really a movement yet. The organization was super well, and also it was an opportunity to really see the sacrifice zone, to walk to the rim of the mine and see forever stretched out dead zone. And this really politicized people from the Netherlands who wanted to do something. Also, all the meetings were translated by a team into English, into French, into Spanish. So the 4 coal fire stations, they produced in 2016 79 million tons of CO2. It's one of the power plants, Nurdat, emits 31 million tons of CO2 per year. That's nearly 1 ton per second. It's about as much as one human being in Bangladesh emits in a whole year. Code Rood came to be because some people started going to this camp, and they started organizing a bus. Like, can we fill a bus to go there? And they filled that bus in a very crucial year in 2015. And 2015 was the first year when people didn't just gather for a camp to learn, but they actually gathered for an action and the Gelände. And this was getting 1,000 people in 5 different fingers in 5 different groups to walk in different routes towards that mine. And since it's such a huge area, even though it was publicly announced, it's very hard to police. And so, yeah, it's putting a lot of trust in the people, the organizers who organize the action, and also a lot of spontaneity at the day. Because at some point, there was a decision to walk through a police line, and then you just really have to stick together and really have to hook in and keep walking and push through. And this was a kind of historical moment also for the Dutch movement to make it to the mine. This is the mine. It's very stretched out. It's forever ongoing, but from these types of actions that they really take a year to prepare, and they take a year of doing action conferences, of learning how to be an affinity group, to do quick decision making as a mini group, to build trust. All these things that happened for this created Code Rood, and it also created Limiti Yeshmemei. This is a similar type of direct action organization in Czech Republic. And so we see that Ende Gelände really spawned new groups in different countries addressing local villains. So back to Code Rood. So as we worked from 2016 to 2017 to do basically the first mass civil disobedience action in Amsterdam for climate, the next year we were kind of challenged. Should we go back to the harbor in Amsterdam? The politics had changed a little bit, and it looked that with the new political players, they were gonna phase out the harbor. So on the left you see a news item. It's saying that in the last 4 years they are phasing down with 18% each year. And in the action conference, it was decided that actually we needed to show up for another community in the Netherlands that is a frontline community itself. And it's a community that has been fighting gas drilling since the 60s. It's in Groningen. And even though the Netherlands is like the smallest country, the tiniest little stamp on the world map, there's a huge distance between the west of the Netherlands, kind of the capital city, the city of politics, The Hague, and the north. So a lot of people don't really know what's happening in Groningen. And the state has really gotten rich of this gas drilling. But the Groningers have just had divide and conquer, you know, the classic way that companies come in, and when they wreak havoc, they will compensate, you know, maybe 10% of the folks and 90% not, and cause division within communities. The way that gas drilling affected the Groningers is really through earthquakes, because the extraction causes the soil to move, and the earthquakes, have caused a lot of trouble. There's over 1,000 earthquakes happening mostly from the 80s till now. And we were directly asked by somebody from Groningen, or 2 people from Groningen, would you come here and help us? So the next year we really organized a big camp for Groningen, and we moved from our organizing capacity to get, in the first year we had 200 people who were willing to do direct action, kind of entering a coal-fired station. It's not the same as organizing a march. You can maybe get a few thousand, but here it's really a deep ask of people to want to put their bodies on the line, risk being arrested, preparing for getting arrested. And so for Groningen, we did a little bit of a lower mass direct action in terms of risk. We did an occupation of infrastructure, but we didn't enter the infrastructure area, also because it was dangerous to go on a facility. It would just be dangerous there. So we had a camp and 700 people came. We worked more on also talking about the political aspects of extractivism, from militarism to different types of tactics that you can use, from art to discussing eco-fascism or discussing different front lines. Yeah, lots of meetings to really build the movement and politicize the movement. And the big camp in front of the refinery happened with 700 people. And I also here want to say that this is also where we moved more into a coalition building collective, because we really worked together with different groups that in Groningen that were already there. But in Groningen, there's not a tendency for activism as much. There's yeah, in general, in the Netherlands, it's a lot harder to mobilize than in Germany or England. But here, doing direct action really was a big barrier for Groningen. That is not as much in the DNA of the culture. So as you can see, we also here borrowed from Ende Gelände that we had different fingers. We had a pink finger, we had a finger that came by boat, a finger that came by bike. So the police, it will be hard to be stopped if we come from all sides. There were local speakers, there was music. Of course, the police was also there, but in general, the repression was lower. And I think that needs to be said. Like, even though Code Rood has been on the, I don't know, terrorist list of the Netherlands or something, because we are more militant, because we do direct action, we really take care that we don't escalate in unnecessary ways, and we're really preparing all year through our action trainings to know how to de-escalate as a group. So move together and keep each other safe, and also know that coming from a country where we enjoy relatively more privilege, the police will hit us, they will arrest us, they might tear gas us, but it's less likely that people will die in the Netherlands because of a protest. So it's also really important that, as the Netherlands is a country that is has big companies that perpetrate many crimes around the world, we really break through that culture of obedience and normalize disobedience.
Chiara, you have 3 minutes to round off, please.
Sure. So here also there is a movement towards phasing out the gas, but it's not necessarily because of us, but I do think we pushed harder on the politics. What is still a huge major factor is that the companies want to be compensated for quitting, and that's ridiculous. Like, the communities are still not compensated, and it's, you know, like we've seen with many horrific things in history, like slavery, that the colonial powers wanted to be compensated instead of affected communities. Final note is on this year, or from 2019 to now, we've been mostly organizing around the campaign Shell Must Fall. And here we really go to the heart of the power. So we went to the AGM, where you have the billionaires sitting there, and we confronted them that we would shut them down, and really build a coalition about that. That's ongoing. And we work with people also from the African Roots community here in Amsterdam, and currently also working with some people in Nigeria on the storytelling. And this year, despite COVID, we still had a lot of actions but they've become more decentralized. And it's really more about, oh, these are too hard to load. This was in May, and because we've done so much coalition work, it was beautiful to see that we couldn't do our mass action of 2,000 people that we planned, but we had 20 actions in different cities in Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Austria, Czech Republic, and we can really see that the coalition in Europe is building the movement trust and building our relationships. So I'll leave it at that for now, and happy to talk to people about tactics and solidarity and how we can do more. Thank you.
So, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Again, a big hand to you as well. I think the presentations from everyone have been really complimentary, exciting, and we can see from all the case studies just the levels of destruction across the globe. We can also see the levels of resistance, and I think there is some powerful moments that we can see from each of the struggles of fight back. What has also been useful and very good is the that we are not just saying no, we are also saying yes, and we're saying yes to life, yes to water, and beginning to talk about a new imagination. What do we want to see in a, what is our understanding of a just transition, post-mining communities and so on. I don't want to continue to sum up because I think I will use too much of the time. We have many questions in the chat and in the question and answer section, but I also see some hands already. So the way I'd like to proceed now is to take some hands for comments, etc., and questions, and then I'm going to give each of the speakers an opportunity to sum up and deal with the questions that's been asked. What I'd also like to say to Code Red or Code Rot is that possibly in the new year, when we have managed COVID better, all of us, it would be great to have a workshop on some of the tactics and strategies that you have been involved in building your direct action. So hopefully we look forward to moments of gathering where we can do this together and share more intensely. So I'm going to start with Carlos as the first question, and please raise your hands if there are others, and then we'll go over to give people an opportunity. Thanks. Carlos, it's your turn. Carlos, are you ready to have your question or comment? We are recognizing your hand. Otherwise, I give Samantha an opportunity to make a question while Carlos gets himself organized. Okay, Samantha, it's your turn, please.
Great. Can you hear me?
Very loud, very well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Marcia. So it's something that I think many of us are grappling with, but what does it mean for women in a community to exercise the right to say no? Because nobody's addressed this question specifically, and it is a significant challenge. So I'm keen to hear some reflections from people.
Thank you, Samantha. It will be good if Ashwini, if you can prepare to answer that, and also Nonchle. So Carlos, are you ready now? Otherwise, we go to Vernon. Vernon, you ready? Please go ahead. I'm not sure what is happening.
Hello.
Hi, Vernon. Please go ahead.
Hi. It's good morning all the way from. I just have a few questions just to pose on behalf of the panel. If you guys could answer it or just ponder upon it. So we have this dilemma here in Papua New Guinea. So there's a proposed mine which is forecasted to be one of the biggest in the world, which is Frida River Mine, which is situated at the top of one of Pacific's biggest river system. It's almost in comparison to the Brazilian Amazon. So we have been working around the clock and speaking against the government to, stop this mining company because and basically the lives revolve. So we've been trying to come up with a legal instrument, a legal binding instrument to help bring this matter forward to the courts if the government pushes ahead with its plans to take the mine forward. So I'd like to hear some words from you guys, so you guys could suggest to us so that we could implement on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Vernon, and thank you for staying with us throughout this evening and into the early hours of the morning. So I think it's an important question, and if we cannot deal with it adequately today, I am sure our comrades from Southeast Asia will bring that into the discussion with the reference group on how we can take this issue forward. But for now, I am going to go to the next hand, which was Camila, and then Nicholas from Nicholas. You will be next. All right. Kamla?
Hi, are you listening, Marcia?
Very well, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for this opportunity. I think it's very big for us from Brazil to listen to all these experiences and people's struggles around the world. But I would like to ask from Lucas if it's possible from him to say a little bit more about what it means, the struggle in Brazil from territories free from mining. What does it mean, and how it's being building in here. But thank you very much.
Thank you. I will ask, Lucas will have an opportunity to respond. Good, thank you. Nicholas? Nico? Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, mine is on the issue of governments in these cases we have had. I come from Kenya, where the government has accepted last year to withhold coal mining in view of saying that of fear of the resistance that is forthcoming. But I want to know from those other cases, does the government seem to ignore the reality of what's happening, or it is the government thinking, genuinely that mining has a benefit for the people or for the country? Because this resistance means the government is not listening or is not accepting. They may be saying the government thinks there is an advantage, there is a benefit, and yet the studies show there is no benefit, as most of the speakers have said. So what are the governments in those cases saying? India, South Africa, Brazil, and the Netherlands. Thank you.
So I don't know if there are any additional questions. Otherwise, I would like to give each of the speakers an opportunity to deal with the questions posed to them directly now, as well as through the chats and the question and answer section. Perhaps I'm not sure if there's another hand or a comment, and then perhaps I'll just go straight to start with Lucas to respond, and each one will have 2 or 3 minutes, and then we can see if there are more. There's Sylvia, there's one more hand. Please go ahead, Sylvia.
Hello, Marcia. Thank you very much to all the speakers. My question is not for a speaker in particular, but maybe all of you in your responses could address, we have heard a lot of what are the strategies and the reasons why you're saying no to extractivism through the different phases that you are resisting. But maybe also it would be interesting to hear in your perspective and from the experiences of the communities you work with, what are the alternatives that you already see working and that can be proposed to start having an understanding of what are we saying yes to from these different experiences. Thank you very much.
And then thank you, Sylvia. If there isn't another hand, we're going to hand to the 4 panelists. And perhaps it is important as you respond to also say what and how you're struggling around this right to say no. What do you think are the tactics and the strategies? Rodrigo? Rodrigo, please go ahead.
Yes. No, I just have first of all, to say this is a very interesting discussion, and I think it really is important for the process of the Thematic Social Forum building and starting with the campaign to the right to say no, and getting, and as the name of this webinar, which is learning from the global struggles, and I think we have a lot. So I think because Lucas had a little problem at the beginning, and I would like to ask him if he could explain better what he mentioned, the 5 constitutive elements of political process to install territories free from mining. Thank you.
That's good. There's a last hand that I'm going to take, which is Bernadette from Zambia. Please go ahead, Bernadette. And then I am going to hand over to the panelists. Yeah, Bernadette, your question, please.
Hello?
We can hear you well.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. The issue of extractivism affects us all, the whole globe. Now, and as much as we are trying to educate our communities to have the right to say no, now what can be done where the community is just pushed without their consent? And where they are taken, there is no space even for farming. They are given little, small spaces. What can be done? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You've heard the questions. I'm not going to repeat. We're going to start with Lucas. And after Lucas, we will go to Nonhle. And then we will go to Chiara. And we will end with Aswini. Okay? Thank you. So each of you have 3 to 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Lucas, are you ready to start?
Sim. O primeiro ponto que eu gostaria de dizer foi uma das perguntas sobre os 5 pontos no Brasil, que a gente está discutindo a gente está pautando para construir territórios livres da mineração. Um desses primeiros pontos, e aí já foi falado inclusive pela Marcia aí, que é o fato de dizer não é igual a dizer sim, né? É uma agenda propositiva, a construção de uma agenda que nos permite mostrar outros projetos existentes nesses territórios para além da mineração. Por exemplo, na Serra do Brigadeiro, a gente tem um grande projeto, é um grande polo de agroecologia. Então, dizer não à mineração é dizer sim à agroecologia. Só um instante. Então, nesse contexto, o dizer não é falar sim a esses projetos já existentes, a preservação ambiental, a agroecologia. Esse é um O outro ponto, o segundo ponto, o primeiro ponto é essa agenda propositiva. O segundo ponto é o fato das pessoas poderem se autodeclararem como o seu território livre de mineração, né? Discutir a soberania do território, sobre quais projetos elas querem para aquele território. Um outro ponto é que, nessa relação mineradoras, grandes corporações e populações locais, já há uma relação desigual de força. Então, essa relação é importante interferir nela para que a gente consiga debater processos de injustiça ambiental. Aí pautar assim, quais são as populações que mais sofrem com rompimento de barragens, por exemplo? Quais são as populações que mais sofrem com a poluição da mineração? Eu estou num estado que já teve 2 rompimentos de barragens, na bacia do Rio Doce e na bacia do Paraupeba. Em quem recai esses impactos ambientais, essa carga de poluição, né? E isso é importante debater. O quarto ponto é a necessidade de democratizar o debate sobre mineração. O Brasil vive hoje um momento ultraliberal, né? O governo muito à direita, ultradireita, e o que é difícil ter canais de participação. E aí, democratizar o debate da mineração nesse contexto é super importante. O Brasil está num projeto de expandir sua fronteira mineral, e a gente precisa incidir nesses territórios e ampliar esse debate. O que a gente está dizendo não é assim, não queremos mais mineração, não é isso. O que a gente está dizendo é que a gente tem que pensar quais locais não é irracional minerar. Existem locais que é irracional. E há locais em que a gente precisa pensar na saúde dos trabalhadores. A mineração é o setor que mais mata no mundo o trabalhador. Há locais que a gente precisa pensar na transição dessas áreas já mineradas para como que ela vai ser depois. Então, esses pontos que nos dão suporte para fazer o debate de territórios livres da mineração. E ele não vem de uma única experiência, ele vem de várias. Então, é nesse sentido que dizer não à mineração é dizer sim a esses 5 pontos, que são pontos políticos importantes da nossa pauta propositiva. Acho que é isso.
Thank you. I think it would also be useful for us all to begin to think through a little more and discuss and debate how do we, you are saying that this part of what is necessary, part of your strategy is to have the right to say yes and a positive agenda. It's also useful for us to think about whether we, what are the other strategies? Do you have a legal strategy around the right to say no, etc.? But we can come back to that in a moment. The next one is Nonchile, as I said. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcia. Yeah.
We cannot hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Now it's better.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you know, there was a question where it says that what can be done where the mining is being pushed without consent? I know that question, it's a little bit tricky, but this is our duty as activists in our communities. That is the answer, because what we need to do is to educate or conscientize our communities, because what is happening in our communities, they have been manipulated, their minds in the name of jobs. And then the communities, because of not understanding what job mean, and they think when they get job, that means the problem solved. And if we educate our people, what type, they must question the job, that what type of job that is going to be brought to them and is going to help them. And then they will understand this is not a job for them. But if communities, they are not being conscientized, it's easy to be fooled. And it's easy, these mining companies, to push through. This is where the communities, they're going to decide, okay, no, here we cannot allow this because it's not so useful to us. But if they were not informed, it will be easy. Because when communities, they are aware, they will be united and they will coming together to say, no, this is not good for us. That is why it's very important that when activists, they do have information, they must share the information with their communities to make sure that they are aware what is going on. And the other thing, in order to help, because it's quite difficult to push, especially as an activist, because we've been labeled as people that we are anti-development, which is not true, because we question. And the developers, they don't understand, they don't have time actually for being questioned because they want to make profit and leave our communities in poverty. That is why I said it's very important for us to make sure that also on the ground, there is alternative where people, when they're going to say no to this one and to say yes on this one. But if there is no alternatives on the ground, it's really, really difficult to push a consent. People must have an alternative where they can see, for example, in my community, we are talking about when we say no to mining, but we say yes to agriculture, we say yes to ecotourism. Those things we know that they will last long, and those things will benefit our communities. And we are not just saying yes, but we do practice those things without any waiting for government to come and educate us, because agriculture and ecotourism is something small that people can start from the grassroots level. It's not something big where it needs all the machinery and all sort of stuff. That's my answer on the question of what can be done where the mining companies were pushing without consent. Yeah, and the other question was saying that what the right to say no mean to women. Honestly, the right to say no to women, it means that the women as the pillars of the earth, as the pillars of the household, now they're going to have a right to decide what is good for the future, because the women are the people that they always looking for the future, not for now. Now, if the right to say no, it did implemented in our communities, that means the women are going to make sure that the livelihood, which is the future of the next generation, is not being destroyed. As you know, that mostly our women are sitting at home, at them that they are feeding the children, even if the woman is working. And but you can find at homestead, when the child is hungry, always said, "Mom, I'm hungry." They always ask food from the mothers, because they know that the mothers are them that they brought the food on the table. Now, if the right to say no, it's been recognized, that means the role of the women in the country is being recognized, is visible, it's no longer invisible. Thank you.
I don't know if I should just follow up right away. I guess so.
We want to say, please check in the question and answer as well, so that you take that on board. And Amem, I will take your question after the speakers, and then we'll have another round to round off. Please go ahead, Tahir.
Great. So I'm very happy to follow up on Nonde, because I heard also some things that I wanted to expand on. Because when I hear the right to say no, it's really the right to make a decision. Because in an oppressive culture, an extractivist culture, you only have the right to obey, right? So the right to say no is the right to make decisions. And I think activism itself, building collective muscle to make decisions together, is part of the alternative and the process of the alternative that we're fighting for, of a certain kind of sovereignty and a certain kind of reciprocity that you learn to make societies of collective decision making instead of top-down authority. So I want to address or follow up with the idea of the development and development cult and how that's weaponized against activists, that you would be anti-development. I think it's very important to have a decolonial understanding of how development is used in politics as something that actually degrades nature and annuls cultural diversity, and it attempts to eliminate the other while privileging a mode of production in which it deepens the commodification of nature and life in the context of globalization steeped in a very long history of colonialism. So that's a very long sentence, but what it means is that if we are invited into the frame of fighting development, development has been made to sound nice, just like we are supposed to live for work, but in the myth, or in the capitalist myth, work as a way of development, we also totally obscure that we actually might want to say yes to the development of reciprocity, the reciprocity with land where we live and with the community we live with. So it's a total reframe of what development is, not with the capitalist myth, but with our own true source of community. I also saw the question of Patrick about NGOs and experiences of swooping in and derailing. I think in general, my experiences here have been that a movement needs to be really strong to say no to NGOs where they cross boundaries, so also right to say no. We've had some good experiences with working with NGOs that are behind the scene, but it's really important for grassroots to make the decisions, because NGOs are more geared towards scooping up victories, and that makes them more risk aversive for, you know, tricky anti-oppression struggles that are more politicized and more radical, and that are more healing for communities and for pushing the needle on political change. So one example is with Ende Gelände. I've seen one NGO really be very involved with it, and at some point Ende Gelände said, nope, we don't need this, because it was too much meddling, and they actually had the collective power to say no to the NGO. I think when that doesn't happen, we see the agenda of NGOs just making it more shallow and less transformative. So that's my note on NGOs. And for final note on as a woman, of course, this is also situated in different areas in different ways, but also in Europe, we definitely have a long way to go. We with Code Rood have now had a queer feminist committee that was in charge of planning the action. We have lots of working groups, and in general, we have a lot of women involved in our collective, but somehow it became that way that the action committee was more men. And so after 2 years, there was a decision like, okay, let's make the action committee a queer feminist committee. And there have been some good learnings with it, but also it's not, even if everybody says yes to it, we noticed how there's so many internalized dynamics that made it not an easy process for the people who were in the committee. Like, they still felt like they had to explain themselves more, or work sidelined or something. So I think even when you have the politics as a collective that is very anti-patriarchy and everything, you still have to deal with the internalized patriarchy that you've just been socialized into from birth. And we're doing that. Are we there yet? No. But I do think it's like the activist collective is a good place for healing some of society's pains, and also finding out what you're saying yes to as a collective, and actually learn that you can make decisions when your experience in society is that you're never invited to make a real meaningful decision. So I'll leave it at that. So much more, but I'll leave it at that.
We sadly, everyone, the time is really, really limited. We've got great questions that we should be dealing with. but I'll have the last speaker, Ashwini, to comment, and then we literally have 10 minutes before we round off today. There was a question from Amem. Would you mind greatly to type it, and we see how we deal with it as we go, as we close? Unless you, is it directed to anyone in particular?
Hello?
Amem? Okay. Go ahead, Ashwini. I will come back.
Esther, queres entrar aqui?
Ashwini, please go ahead.
Eu não entendo esta mulher. Queres entrar aqui?
Ashwini?
Okay. Yeah, so the question was asked by Christino Sanyal. Can you mention some ground level community movement in India asking for a gender equality within FRA? So yeah, we have been working on that. As in India, I think many of them know that there is customary law which is followed mostly, where women don't have any right to any of the property or any entitlement. So especially widows and unmarried women. So the area where we are working, we have been continuously motivating the women from the community to come forward and ask for their rights. So where they have been coming forward, first we go, because the patriarchy is still there. So we go to families where there is, where they are ready to give. And then we have been continuously dialoguing with the local government to telling them to make their housing and the land in the name of the woman under FRA or PISA Act, so that easier for the woman to have something on their name, at least land or property or house, so that they are ready to fight for it and they don't feel helplessness. One more question was from Samantha. What does it mean for women to exercise their right to say no to makeup? Communities plays a very important role when, if there is any project, because in India we have this PISA and Gram Sabhas. So according to that, any mega project, they have to take permission from Gram Sabhas, which means community. Gram Sabhas means anyone who is above 18. Everyone have to, every single person have to give permission for this project. Even if there is at least one single person who says no, then they can't go forward. So mostly women, before this project starts, we have to sit with the women and tell what are the disadvantages of this project. Many times it happened that mostly it is men who have been given the right to say yes or no, but they don't know that women also have a part in this decision making. So we have to be in touch with them and we have to create awareness about this project and what are the disadvantages. I think mostly Nohal had already told about the what are the responsibilities of the women if these projects come and how they will be the one who will be burdened. So it will be like, because not only responsibilities, there will be sexual abuse also happening if these projects come. So we have to mainly focus on what exactly the project is about and what harms it can do to their environment, their families, their communities. Okay, thank you. Is there anything consultation and concern? So I think MM has asked, how do we differentiate between consultation and concern? See, consultation is one where only like not everyone will come, but consent is kind of a where you will be going in that particular village and talking with every single person. So that many of the things we have seen in consultations that only men will be there, like 3/4 of the whoever is coming, it will be men, like only like some few women will be coming. But for consent, we will be going to villages, we will be having a huge meeting with the women and men. Committee member.
So people, there are lots of questions that's in the question and answer section about human rights defenders taking forward this issue of consult, and consultation. What progress have we made at a global level and at the UN level around the right to say no, etc. There are many important questions that it's difficult to answer at minutes to 5. I think we are noting these questions. These questions we are going to save and deal with as we plan the next series of webinars. I think I'd like to say thank you to everyone. Today's sharing was extremely rich and powerful. The different strategies that we've used, the different experiences, the different lessons. We just don't have enough time today to explore, to unpack each of these case studies that we've looked at today. The point that the question of Samantha and that Ashwani tries to answer at the end now about the role of women in these struggles, etc. I think as we go forward, we're hoping to have a series of these webinars that's going to unpack some of these cases. We are going to build a whole very rich body of experiences that we hope will come together as we plan and take forward the idea of, or the notion of, what do we mean by the right to say no, how we build the next Thematic Social Forum, and how do we take all of these issues on board. For today, I'm going to say thank you to all of you. It's been extremely useful. I've enjoyed today very much. I hope all of you, and on just to say to everybody, on average, we've been about 100 participants throughout the 2 hours. So thank you very much for that. I think just the diversity has been enriching. So I'd like to say a special thank you to Kia and her team for all the technical support. Thank you very much. A big hand from all of us, and to those who have worked in the background to help us bridge the language divides. Also a big thank you to all of you. The interpreters, I really, it's been useful to have all of you. All of this, we have recordings. The process will be transcribed and we'll be able to circulate this. We hope that you'll journey with us as we go forward between now and October with the rest of the webinar. So thank you to everyone. Thank you very much.